All right, everybody, welcome back. This week we're going to be talking about the Northeast region. So our setup is going to be pretty much the same as last week when we explored the Midwest region, but this time we're going to explore the Northeast region. So a lot of people refer to this area as the New England states. Technically, our New England states are these darker green ones up here, and then you have the Middle Atlantic states, which are this lighter green. So those are the states we're going to talk about. So we have Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont in our New England states. And then our Middle Atlantic states are going to be Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. So the capital of Connecticut is Hartford. The capital of Maine is Augusta. The capital of Massachusetts is Boston. The capital of New Hampshire is Concord. The capital of Rhode Island is Providence. The capital of Vermont is Montpelier. And then down to the Middle Atlantic states, the capital of Delaware is Dover. The capital of Maryland is Annapolis. The capital of New Jersey is Trenton. The capital of New York is Albany, and the capital of Pennsylvania is Harrisburg. So we have these, they also have listed here the postal abbreviations. So the postal abbreviations are 2 letters, and we talked about this last week. For the most part, they are the first letter of the state and the second letter. But sometimes they don't do the second letter. For example, down here in Delaware, DE, so that follows the first and second letter kind of rule. When it's 2 words, like New Jersey and New York, they have the first letter of each of the words. For Maine, it has ME, and then Massachusetts is MA, so that they had, since they both started with M, they couldn't both be MA, so they had to differentiate them a little bit. If you're curious about their nicknames, we're down here. We've got the Constitution State, the Pine Tree State, the Granite State. So some of these you'll see are going to have to do with a lot of the sometimes the resources they have. In other places, you're going to have things that are going to be like the Green Mountain State or the Ocean State or the Bay State, things that are going to be representing landforms. So they get nicknames for all sorts of different reasons, but those are just some of them. Okay, let's talk about the geography. There are a lot of really important waterways in the Northeast region. So you have Lake Ontario, which is right here, this one that's a little bit north on the northeast side of the other one. So this is Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. Some important rivers. We have the Hudson River, which is right here. We have the Susquehanna River, the Delaware River, and the Connecticut River. So those are going to be the important rivers. You also have the Monongahela and Allegheny that are over here in Pennsylvania. We've talked about that when we talked about the Ohio River and how it was formed. So remember, the Monongahela and the Allegheny rivers come together at the city of Pittsburgh, and they form the Ohio River. So when they come together, the confluence of them forms the Ohio River. So that's the source of it. You also have the Erie Canal, and then the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. So those are going to be important waterways. And remember, waterways are often the highways of the past. So those are things that were important and still remain important in terms of travel and then also getting goods from one place to another. Some important landforms. There are a lot of mountain ranges up here. You have the Appalachian Mountains, which are going to be your bigger, kind of that big mountain range that goes down the eastern part of the United States. But then you have smaller mountain ranges in there. You also have the Catskills, which are right here. You have the Adirondack Mountains here, the Green Mountains. So we have a lot of little mountain ranges up there that are also important to this area. You have Cape Cod. You have the Delmarva Peninsula, and you also have Long Island. So Long Island is this one right here. So New York City is something you think about with Long Island. It's right around there. So those are some important landforms that the people in the Northeast are living amongst. Populated cities. So we have a lot of really populated cities in these Northeast cities. A lot of the biggest cities in our country are here. So New York City has over 8 million people in it, which is hard to believe, but it's gigantic. So this is a picture of New York City up here. Philadelphia is right here. It has about 1.5 million people. Boston, Massachusetts has about 600,000 people. Here's Pittsburgh, and you can actually see the Allegheny Monongahela rivers coming together here. This is that point right there where they come together. And then number 5 down here is Newark, New Jersey. And then we round out the top 10 with Buffalo, New York, Jersey City in New Jersey, Rochester, New York, Yonkers, New York, and then Worcester, Massachusetts. So there are a lot of very populated cities here in this northeast part of the United States. All right, let's talk about the New England states. We're going to start with Connecticut. So Connecticut, these are some landscape pictures of Connecticut. It has a lot of beautiful wilderness, and you can see some of the hills of the hilly kind of mountain rangy stuff up in Connecticut, some of the foothills of some of the bigger hills that they have. This is a cityscape in Connecticut, so it's not all landscape like these, but it also has cities as well. So that's Connecticut. And then up to Maine, way up here. So Maine's an interesting place. It has some inland areas and it has some mountains in it, but it also has the ocean over here. The ocean is a really big part of Maine. They're really famous for lobsters and things like that because they are up in the Atlantic area, and the lobsters are very prevalent up there. So here's also a cityscape. So yes, it has some wonderful wilderness, but it also has some urban areas as well. Massachusetts is right here. So Massachusetts also has some wonderful areas that are rural and has beautiful landscapes and beautiful landforms. But then it also has this is Boston, so downtown Boston, and you have these beautiful city areas as well. New Hampshire is this little guy right here. It's stuck in between Vermont and Maine, so it's Maine's neighbor. And it also has some amazing landscapes to it. It has some mountain ranges in it. They've got some wonderful covered bridges. You can see just the beautiful landscapes, but also, again, we have urban areas as well. So all these states, while they do have beautiful urban or rural areas, they do have a significant amount of urban areas as well. Rhode Island, it's our tiniest state right here. So Rhode Island also is, while it's small, it has a lot to do with water and the ocean and things like that. So this is what you're going to see in Rhode Island. And then you also have city areas there as well. Up to Vermont, the way that I remember Vermont versus New Hampshire is that Vermont is kind of shaped like a V. So if you look at this, because I always as a kid I had trouble remembering which one was which. Vermont is shaped like a V, so that's Vermont. And these are some pictures of Vermont. Again, you've got some beautiful landscapes here, lots of mountain range pictures, but also cities as well. So that's what Vermont looks like. Down to the middle Atlantic states. So these are going to be a little bit larger and a little bit farther to the west and a little bit farther to the south. So we're going to start with Delaware. Whoops, I should show you where Delaware is. It's right down here. So Delaware, again, has some flat areas, but also some hilly areas. And it also has some cities. They're not as big as some of the other cities that we've talked about, but that is Delaware. On to Maryland. Maryland always kind of looks like a frying pan to me. See how it has like a handle and then it's flat there. Looks kind of like a frying pan. So this is Maryland. Again, you've got some beautiful, these are, if you notice here, it's a little bit more flat. You have some water areas here. I mean, it opens up into the bay, and then you have some beautiful landscapes here with some rural areas. But then we also have Baltimore in there, which is also going to be a very large urban area. On to New Jersey. This is New Jersey. And New Jersey is parts of New Jersey, right across the water is Hoboken, New Jersey, which is right across from New York City. So it's very close to one of the biggest urban areas of New York City. But then it also has these rural areas as well. A lot of people don't think about the rural areas when they think of New Jersey. They think more about the urban stuff, but they do have some beautiful rural areas. New York. So most people think about New York City. New York City is like right down here. It's not the whole state. Most people refer to this as upstate New York, but it's a large state and it has a lot of a lot of other qualities to it other than New York City, but most people think of New York City. So here's sprawling New York City. You can see all these buildings here. But then these are some amazing other pictures of New York. So it's kind of a different side of New York that a lot of people don't think about. It has some beautiful landscapes, beautiful pictures, lots of trees and things like that that you don't typically think about when you think about New York City. On to Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is our neighbor. It goes all the way from way over here. You've got Philadelphia and all that stuff way over here on the eastern side. And then if you come all the way to the western side, you get Pittsburgh. So it's a big state, and a lot of people, we may think of more of Pennsylvania being more like these pictures here with a lot of the sprawling open urban rural areas, but then people over on the East Coast may think of it a little bit more like Pennsylvania because they do have or Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia, because they do have a big city there. But again, like the other states, this one has some rural areas, some urban areas, and it also has some suburban areas like we've talked about in the past too. So it definitely has a lot of great qualities to it. All right, some famous landmarks. So Niagara Falls is an interesting landmark. Niagara Falls actually is half of it is in Canada and half of it's in the United States. The part that's in the United States is in New York. It's in Niagara County, and they recognize it as the oldest state park. And you can see these. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. The flow rate is 84,760 cubic feet per second. So there's a tremendous amount of water going over those falls every single second. I've been there, and it's unbelievable to see this. The height of this is 167 feet from the top down to the bottom. So it's pretty amazing. So it goes in between the province of Ontario and in Canada and New York in the United States. Statue of Liberty, while it's not a natural landscape or a natural landmark, it is a well-known landmark. So the Statue of Liberty sits on an island, and we talked about this when we talked about Ellis Island. You can see it from there, and it's on its own little island here in the New York Harbor. So the next one, we've got the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. The Chesapeake Bay is part of Maryland, and it's in between Maryland. It's shared with Maryland and with Virginia. This bridge is unbelievable. I drove across this. We had to go to a wedding, and we had to go across this to get to the wedding. It is an unbelievably long bridge. And it's wow. I have to tell you that it's a pretty amazingly gigantic bridge, but it spans this Chesapeake Bay here. So that's the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. It's also in Virginia as well, because you've got two sides of it. The Palisades in New Jersey. So they are a line of steep cliffs along the Hudson River. So again, some people think of New Jersey just as cities. It has this amazing landscape here, these cliffs, and down here is your Hudson River. So it's absolutely beautiful. The Liberty Bell, again, not a natural landform, but it is a really cool landmark. So the Liberty Bell is in Philadelphia, and it's an iconic symbol of the U.S. So that is the Liberty Bell. Hershey, Pennsylvania. You can't talk about Pennsylvania without remembering this. So Hershey, the one that invented all the chocolate company and everything, it's just east of the capital, so it's pretty much in the middle of Pennsylvania. And he created this whole city, and it has a factory and all sorts of other stuff. It has rides and attractions and a zoo and everything. So it's a pretty amazing place if you ever get a chance to go there. It's pretty cool. They also have the light posts, they look like Hershey Kisses and everything. So it's a really cool place. Mount Washington is up in New Hampshire. And this is the highest peak in northeast United States. It's 6,288 feet tall. So that's up in New Hampshire. Acadia National Park is up in Maine, and it's on the coastline, and it's beautiful. Rocky beaches and all sorts of really cool stuff. So it's absolutely beautiful up there. West Quoddy Head Point in Maine. This is the easternmost point on land of the United States. So if you go there, you can't go any farther east. So that's the most eastern point of the United States. And this is a well-known lighthouse that's there that marks the easternmost point. All right, resources up in the Northeast. You're going to notice that we have all sorts of things here. We've got dairy products, which is going to be, you've got farming and things that are good for grazing up here. But you also, if you notice these bottles here, this is all maple syrup. So a lot of the trees that you find up in these forests are wonderful for maple syrup, and this part of the country is famous for making delicious maple syrup. You also have apples up here. Over here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, over here is where, and down here in New Jersey and a couple places, they're famous for cranberries, and cranberries actually grow in a bog. It's kind of an interesting thing. And then they harvest them that way. Resources that the Northeast is famous for, you've got farming and forest lands, and then you also have lots of stone and marble. So from a lot of those mountains, they are able to get stone and marble, which we turn into all sorts of things, including countertops. They have a lot of fishing, lots of dairy, lots of maple syrup, and lots of cranberries are some well-known resources up there. All right, now on to your bingo. So same story as last week. This is the bingo board. There are 9 activities here. Your goal is to get a bingo, 3 across, 3 down, or 3 diagonal. So here's what your activities look like. There is one about the geography of the Northeast. So you would read this article and then answer these few questions about the article. There's one about the New England states. So you would read this article and answer those questions. There's an article about the Middle Atlantic states. So you read that article and answer those questions. And then if you chose to do the Northeast today, it talks about some kind of pop culture stuff over here, some people that are pretty famous from the Northeast. So if you choose to do that, you can read this article and then answer the questions here. Another option on your bingo would be to name that state from the facts here about the New England states. There is, as always, a word search, so you can find the state and capital of the Northeast states. There's a crossword puzzle. And then you can also do the state quarter symbolism. So we've got lots of choices on epic of different states. So whichever state you want to learn more about, read a book on epic about it. And then you're going to tell me design your quarter. And then you want to answer what year the state became a state, and then explain why you have the symbols on there. You need at least 2 symbols on your quarter, and explain why you chose those symbols. And your last option is to read a book on epic, and then in order to get credit for that, just screenshot that thing at the very end when it says you've finished your book. All right, guys, that is the end of the Northeast region. I hope you have fun exploring these wonderful states and all the things that they have to offer us. And I can't wait to see all your bingo stuff. Thanks, guys. Bye.